On this episode of Repair Geek, what is death wobble? About to find out. Holy hell! Oh my god. This is insane. So this is a 2014 Jeep Wrangler. Rubicon Unlimited for those of you that are, Jeep people. As you can see, customer complaint is a death wobble. So, first step, verify the customer complaint. Yep, in fact, it does have a death wobble, as you guys saw. But even at low speed, I can tell just driving this thing around, the front end of this thing, it just kind of wanders all over the place. It's kind of crazy. Because I can be going like 30 miles an hour and I'll hit a bump in the road and I can feel the front end of the Jeep like jump left or right. It's kind of crazy. That's the first time I've ever experienced it. So I'm gonna see if I can fix it. Obviously, with that said, I'm not an expert in death wobble. This is the first vehicle that I've ever personally dealt with that's had it. So we're gonna go back to the shop and we're gonna try and get this thing straightened out for this girl. Okay guys, I made it home. Got the Jeep up on the lift, as you guys can see, and in hindsight, that was probably one of the scarier things that I've ever done in a vehicle, simply because steering input is basically useless. It's all you can do just to hold on to the steering wheel at that point, let alone trying to turn it, left or right when it's shaking like that. So it's kind of like a Jesus take the wheel moment, if you will. It's pretty scary. So with that said, like I said, I got the vehicle up on the lift, taking a look at the front end here. You need to thoroughly inspect pretty much everything with the front end of the vehicle. The first place you need to start is going to be the track bar. The track bar is what locates the axle left to right under the vehicle. And something as simple as one of the track bar bolts being loose can cause death wobble. So what can happen is if one of these bolts are loose or the bushings are bad in the track bar, it will allow the axle to shift to left and right. And because the axle is shifting left and right, the steering is also changing with it, because the steering box is bolted to the frame and the axle is shifting underneath it. When that happens, as you guys saw in the video, it slowly built up over time. It wasn't something where it was just all of a sudden going crazy. I hit the first bump on that bridge and it slowly built up, and by the time I hit the second bump, it was basically out of control. So track bar and track bar bushings, make sure your track bar is tight on both ends, make sure the bushings are in good shape. Beyond that, obviously, ball joints, tie rod ends, wheel bearings, all that stuff, you need to take a look at that. This Jeep, I have a sneaking suspicion the track bar bushings are pretty much shot. I got in here with a pry bar underneath it like this and started prying around a little bit, and I did get some movement out of both ends of the track bar. But there's bigger bushing issues in the front end of this Jeep, so let me bring you over and show you. So guys, take a look at these upper axle bushings. That one's absolutely destroyed. And so is this one over here on the passenger side. So this one on the passenger side is absolutely destroyed as well. So that needs fixed. I'm gonna install 2 new upper axle bushings, a new track bar, and I'm gonna replace all the tie rod ends on this thing. This Jeep only has 60,000 miles on it. As you guys can see, I mean, those bushings are absolutely hammered. I'm sure between the bushings and some of the minor wear on the other, front end parts, that's the origin of this concern. Okay, so at this point, a little bit of time has passed. As you can see, I'm in the middle of doing the axle seals on the Jeep, but like I said, I've spent some time around this thing, looked at it really well, and I think the main issue with this particular Jeep is caster.
Okay, first of all, what is caster? So caster is the angle between the lower ball joint and the upper ball joint, meaning is the lower ball joint further forward than the upper ball joint, or is it like this? So the reason this matters is, if you guys ever had a shopping cart that had a wheel that was constantly shaking, it's because it didn't have enough caster. So what really needs to happen here is the upper ball joint needs to be pulled back and the lower ball joint needs to be pushed forward. Now, this is obviously highly exaggerated. Really what you want is you want between, like, I think a Jeep, the specification on a Jeep is between 4.5 and 7 degrees of caster. And like I showed you guys just a second ago, the upper axle bushings in this thing are absolutely smoked. So what that's doing is that's letting the caster basically change as you're going down the road. So if it gets to a point that the upper ball joint is further ahead than the lower ball joint, that's when the shake is going to develop. So the caster issues that this Jeep has are exaggerated because it has a lift kit on it. So it has these shock extensions, you know, longer spring to, I think it has a 2.5-inch lift kit on it. So the spring is 2.5 inches longer. That drops the axle down 2.5 inches. And what happens is, you have to understand, is when this axle goes up and down, it moves in an arc. It doesn't actually go straight up and down. It goes like this because it's connected back here at the frame and it's connected to the axle here. So obviously the section at the frame doesn't move, so it's going to do this, kind of move in a half circle kind of deal. Now that's kind of highly exaggerated, but you get what I'm saying. So what happens is, when you lift the vehicle and put a taller spring in here, you drop that axle down. When you drop the axle down, the axle is now in a different location in that arc that I was talking about earlier, how it moves in an arc. Well, when you drop the axle down like this, that takes the upper ball joint and moves it forward. When you move the upper ball joint forward, guess what? You have death wobble problems. The only way that you can correct this is to make this arm longer and make this one shorter. When you do that, the other thing that you're going to affect is your pinion angle on your drive shaft. So you have to be careful you don't put too much pinion angle on your drive shaft that you'll burn up the U-joints. So what the moral of this story is, don't lift your daily driver. So the girl that owns this Jeep had this lift kit installed probably about a year ago or so, and the person that she had put the lift kit on told her when he got it done that he checked the alignment and everything was in the green. Now, that's the story I got from the customer, so this thing may or may not have actually had an alignment. So chances are, if it didn't have an alignment, that's probably why she's having issues so early on. Like I said, she's had this lift kit on here for about a year now. As you guys can see, the upper control arms in this thing are adjustable. So while I was in here, I put an extra couple turns of extra caster in here to try and, you know, obviously alleviate the issues. The other thing that I did while I was in here was I wanted to install a new steering stabilizer. The girl that owns the Jeep, she goes, "I want a dual steering stabilizer." I said, "Okay, that's what I'll install for you." So I understand a steering stabilizer is not going to fix death wobble issues. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You have to fix the root cause, and a steering stabilizer isn't the root cause of a death wobble. Obviously, a steering stabilizer can mask a death wobble, so I understand you're not really supposed to put a dual steering stabilizer on when you have death wobble issues, but so I'm just installing the parts that the customer wanted me to install. All right, guys, so taking a look underneath the Jeep, there's a new adjustable track bar over here. Hopefully that'll alleviate some of the bump steer issues that it had. New drag link, new tie rod ends, and then it also has obviously a new dual steering stabilizer that she wanted installed. Also, new upper control arm bushings, and then I also adjusted the length on the upper control arms. I shortened them up a little bit, you know, canted the axle back a little bit, gave it a little bit more caster. You're better off with a little bit too much caster than not enough, because if you don't have enough, you're going to have death wobble problems. Some of the other stuff I did, if you guys watch real close in the video, you could see both axle seals were leaking, and I also installed new U-joints. I'll have 2 separate videos coming out on those 2 repairs as well. So yeah, let's go take this thing for a drive.
All right, guys, moment of truth. Same bridge, headed the opposite direction after all the repairs. Now, obviously, the alignment isn't done, as you can see on the steering wheel, but I got this motorcycle in front of me, so I can't exactly hit this thing going quite as fast as I was last time, but you guys look, big changes. So ideally, that's what's supposed to happen. I understand a bunch of you are probably out there watching a bunch of different videos trying to figure out this death wobble problem that you have. And unfortunately, you know, it's really on a case-by-case basis what you have to do to the vehicle. So unfortunately, I can't just tell you guys replace the steering stabilizer or, you know, the control arm bushings, which I think were the main cause on this particular Jeep. So as far as what components you should replace, guys, if you have a death wobble concern, unfortunately, I can't give you like verbatim what you need to do. It's really on a case-by-case basis. And really, like I said in the beginning of the video, you're just gonna have to thoroughly look over the vehicle that you're dealing with to try and figure out what the issue is, because unfortunately, you know, it's gonna vary. I think that's part of the reason why, if you watch a lot of these videos out there on YouTube, a lot of people will just tell you to just basically rebuild the front suspension to basically eliminate any concerns. So guys, that's what I got for this video. I'll have links in the description to the parts that I used, any tools that I used, and as always, guys, if you guys like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content, go down and hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.